A goblet of red wine shattered against the polished marble floor. Heads turned. A woman in a long scarlet dress stopped at the entrance of the great hall. 200 guests went still in their seats. Behind her, a tall man in a black coat stepped forward, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees in a single breath. Wolves do not bow easily, but every wolf in that hall dropped to one knee before he had even finished his second step. The groom at the altar went stiff. The bride at his side went white. He had invited his former mate to his own wedding hall to break her one last time in front of everyone he had ever known. Her name was Leora. The man standing behind her was the Leaken King. What he said next would end 3 bloodlines before sunrise came. Stay with me on this one. To understand what was about to happen in that hall, you have to go back 6 months. Leora Mavros was not born to be anyone's queen. She came from a small pack on the northern edge of the Vance territory. Her family ran a forge. Her brothers ran traplines. She kept the books for the pack stores. That was her life. Simple, useful, quiet. Then Damon Vance noticed her. Damon was the heir. Tall, broad-shouldered, golden-eyed, with that easy, confident smile every alpha's son learns before he learns to read. He walked into the forge one afternoon to have a blade rehandled. He saw Leora measuring iron with her bare hands. He saw the calluses. He saw the way the other men in the room dropped their gazes when she spoke. And he decided, then and there, that he wanted her. A young Omega from a forge family does not say no to the alpha's son. Believe me, that is not how packs work. Damon courted her for 2 seasons. He brought her flowers. He brought her gifts. He sat at her family's table and laughed at her father's old jokes. He looked her in the eyes and told her she was the only one he had ever wanted. And she believed him. She was 23 years old. She had never been loved before. Of course she believed him. He marked her on the longest night of winter. The whole pack saw it. The mating ceremony was small, but it was real. He bit her neck. She bit his. Their scents braided together. And in the eyes of every wolf in that territory, Leora Mavros became Damon Vance's mate. 3 months later, he stopped coming home. She told herself he was busy. The pack was preparing for a season of trade. Damon's father, the old alpha, was sick. There were 100 reasons a young heir might not be in his mate's bed on any given night. Leora was patient. She kept the books. She tended the forge. She waited. Then came the council gathering. Every 5 years, the packs of the northern reaches send their alphas to a council. Trade routes are agreed. Marriages are arranged. Disputes are settled before they turn to blood. Damon's father sent Damon in his place that year, because his lungs would not allow him to travel. And Damon came back from that council with a name in his mouth. Kasha Brand. Kasha Brand was the daughter of the Brand pack. 800 wolves. 3 valleys. A river port. Everything Damon's territory did not have, the Brand pack did. And the Brand Alpha had a daughter of mating age. And he was willing to make a deal. When Damon told Leora, he did not weep. He did not apologize. He did not even look at her properly. He told her she had been a mistake of his youth. He told her the bond would have to be severed for the good of the pack. He told her his father had agreed. She did not scream. She did not throw anything. She just stood there and let the words land. Then Damon did the thing that broke her. He brought her to the center of the pack circle, in front of every wolf they had ever known, and he spoke the words of formal rejection. I, Damon Vance, son of Aldrich, reject you, Leora Mavros, as my mate. 3 times he said it. The 3rd time, the bond inside her chest tore open like wet paper. A rejection in front of a pack is not a quiet thing. The mate that is being rejected has no power to refuse. They have to stand there. They have to take it. And every wolf in the circle sees it happen. Some of them looked away. Some of them did not. Kasha Brand was already standing at Damon's side when he said the 3rd word. She wore a green dress. She smiled. When it was over, Damon's mother handed Leora a small leather pouch. Travel coin, the custom for a rejected mate. The pack gives you enough silver to find your way to somewhere else. The pack does not give you a place to go. Leora took the pouch. She walked out of the circle. She walked out of the village. She walked into the forest with the clothes on her back and her grandfather's iron pendant around her neck. And she kept walking until the lights of the only home she had ever known were gone behind the trees. She walked for 2 days. She did not eat. She drank from a stream once. On the second night, the cold came down and her bond wound began to bleed through her shirt. That is where the Black Citadel found her. They came on horseback. 6 riders. Black coats. Silver wolf clasps at their throats. The lead rider dismounted and crouched beside her. He did not speak. He pulled back the collar of her shirt, saw the rejection wound, and looked back over his shoulder at the others. "Take her," he said. "He will want to see this." She was too weak to ask who. She was too weak to do anything but be lifted onto the back of a horse and held there as the riders turned south. They rode for a day and a half. She remembers very little of it. She remembers a fire one night, and a hand pressing a cup of warm broth to her mouth. She remembers a voice telling her to drink. She remembers wondering, foolishly, if she was about to be sold. On the second evening they came over a ridge, and she saw the Black Citadel for the first time. The citadel is not a castle in the old way. It is older. It is built from the bones of the mountain itself, black stone laid by hands that lived before any pack remembered them. The Lycans took it 300 years ago. They have lived in it ever since. Lycans are not werewolves. Not exactly. A werewolf is a man who can become a wolf. A Lycan is something older, something closer to the first shape. They are larger. They are stronger. They live longer. And there are very few of them left. The Lycan king is the last of his blood. His name was Theron. Theron of the Black Citadel. Theron the Quiet, some of the older wolves called him, because he did not speak unless he had to, and when he spoke, the room listened. The riders carried Leora through a black-stoned hall and laid her on a bench. Servants brought water and clean cloth. A healer pulled back her shirt and stopped breathing for a moment when she saw the rejection wound. Then she went to work. It was 3 days before Leora was strong enough to sit up. On the 4th day, Theron came to see her. He was tall. Not just big. Tall in the way old trees are tall. He wore black. His hair was dark and cut close to his head. His eyes were gray, like stone in winter water. He did not introduce himself. He did not have to. He sat in a chair across from her bed and looked at her for a long moment. "Tell me his name," he said. She told him. "Damon Vance. Heir of Aldrich. Northern Reaches." Theron nodded once. He did not write it down. He did not need to. "You are healing," he said. "You will heal more. When you are well, you may leave or you may stay. I will not keep you. But I will tell you this. 3 weeks from now I will be traveling north for council business. I would prefer you came with me." "Why?" she said. It was the first word she had spoken in 5 days. "Because I do not like what was done to you," he said. "And I would like the man who did it to see who you are now." She did not know what to say to that, so she did not say anything. 3 weeks passed. She healed. She walked the corridors of the Black Citadel. She learned the names of the servants. She learned the names of the riders. She learned slowly who Theron was. She learned that he had been king for 30 years. She learned that he had never had a mate. She learned that the Lycans were dying out, one bloodline at a time, and that he was the last of his line, and that this fact did not seem to weigh him down the way it should have. She learned, watching him in the great hall one evening, that he was the kindest dangerous man she had ever seen. On the night before they were to leave for council business, she went to his study. She did not know why. She told herself it was to thank him. She did not thank him. She stood in front of him and said, "I do not want to be saved." He looked up from his papers. "I am not saving you," he said. Then what are you doing? He set the papers down. He stood. He came around the desk. He stopped a respectful distance away. I am offering you a chance to walk back in, he said. Not as the rejected, as something else. You decide what. The bond mark on her neck had scarred over by then. The scar was pale silver. He looked at it for a long moment. You do not have to choose tonight, he said. She did not choose that night. She chose the next morning. She came to his study at dawn. She said the words she had to say. And in a quiet ceremony with only 2 witnesses and a single drop of blood, Theron of the Black Citadel marked her as his mate. It was not love. Not yet. It was a contract between 2 people who understood each other. A week later, the messenger arrived. He came on a thin gray horse, in the colors of the Vance pack. He carried a scroll sealed with red wax. He handed it to Theron's seneschal at the gate, bowed, and left without speaking. The scroll was an invitation. Damon Vance and Cassia Brand request the honor of your presence at the joining of their lines. Theron read it. He passed it to Leora. She read it. She read it again. At the bottom of the scroll, in Damon's own hand, there was a single line written. Bring whatever you have left. Leora set the scroll on the table. She felt her hands shake. Then she felt them stop shaking. She looked up at Theron. We are going, she said. Theron almost smiled. It was the closest thing she had seen to a smile on his face. I know, he said. That night, for the first time in 6 months, she slept without dreaming of Damon Vance. The citadel was quiet. The wind was low. She believed, in that quiet, that she had finally arrived somewhere safe. She was wrong. The trigger came 2 nights later. She was in her chambers. The candles were down to nubs. She had fallen asleep over a book. The first thing she felt was a hand over her mouth. She came awake fast. She bit down. She tasted blood. The hand jerked back. She rolled off the bed and hit the floor hard. The man above her was already lifting a blade. The door cracked open before he could bring it down. Theron moved across that room faster than any man his size should have been able to. He caught the assassin by the back of the neck. He lifted him off the floor. He looked at the blade in the man's hand. He looked at the man's eyes. Who sent you? He said. The assassin did not answer. He spit instead. Theron broke his neck with one hand. He set the body down gently. He did not look angry. He did not look anything. He picked up the blade, turned it in the candlelight, and went very still. There was a mark on the handle. A small wolf head. Pack token. Vance pack. The next morning, Theron's seneschal brought in 2 more bodies. They had been caught at the outer gate. Same blades. Same tokens. Same pack. 3 killers in 1 night, Theron said. For a wedding guest. He looked at Leora across the room. She was sitting in the chair where the assassin had nearly killed her. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her face was calm. He does not intend to humiliate you, Theron said. He intends to bury you. Now here is what we did not know yet. What Theron's scouts learned over the next 2 days. The Vance pack and the Brand pack had been working on this wedding for nearly a year. The plan had 2 layers. The first layer was the marriage itself, the alliance, the joining of lands. That was the part the guests would see. The second layer was Leora. Damon had told his new father-in-law that there was a problem. A loose thread. A rejected mate who had survived. A woman who knew too much about the Vance succession, the old alpha's illness, the bookkeeping of the pack stores. A woman who could be used against him by his enemies if she ever decided to speak. The Brand Alpha had agreed. The thread had to be cut. The invitation was the trap. They wanted her at the wedding. They wanted her in their hall, on their ground, surrounded by their wolves. They wanted her dead in a way that looked like a stray fight. A rejected mate, returned out of bitterness, struck down by a loyal guard. Tragic. Tidy. Forgotten by the next moon. What they had not planned for was the Leakin King. They knew Theron had taken her in. They thought he had taken her in as a charity case. A wounded Omega in his sickbay. They did not know about the marking. The marking had been done quietly. 2 witnesses only. The scroll was a fishing line, and they were sure they knew what was on the other end. Theron told her all of this in his study, 2 nights before they were due to leave for the Vance Hall. He told it to her plainly. He did not soften it. When he was done, she sat very still for a long time. "You can stay here," he said. "I will go. I will deliver the answer that this deserves." "No," she said. "Leora." "No." She stood. "If I stay here, he wins. He spends the rest of his life telling the story of the woman he made disappear. I am going. He is going to see me, and he is going to see what I came back as." Theron studied her. Then he nodded. "If you are still with me on this one, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Stories like this one only get to keep going because of people like you. Now back to it." The Leakin King scouts went ahead of them. They mapped every corridor of the Vance Hall. They marked every archer position. They counted every guard. They identified 6 wolves in Damon's inner circle who had taken a payment from the Brand Alpha within the last month. They did not move on any of it. Not yet. The day before the wedding, 2 of Theron's Lycans entered the Vance territory as traders. They sold pots and pans at the market. They listened. They came back at midnight with names. The day of the wedding, at dawn, 50 Leakin riders left the Black Citadel by 3 different roads. They did not ride to the Vance Hall. They rode to the homes of the 6 wolves who had been paid by the Brand Alpha. They surrounded those homes. They waited. Theron and Leora left after them. They took the main road. They did not hide. They wanted to be seen. She wore the red dress. He had it made for her. It was the color of a wound that had healed and stayed proud about it. The collar was cut low enough that the silver scar on her neck was visible. The hem brushed the floor. She wore her grandfather's iron pendant. He wore black. He always wore black. They arrived at the gates of the Vance Hall as the sun was going down. The guards at the gate saw the carriage. They saw Theron step out first. They saw Leora step out second. One of them dropped his pike. The other turned and ran. By the time the 2 of them reached the doors of the great hall, every wolf inside already knew. The doors opened, and the goblet of red wine fell from the hand of a server who had turned to look, and it shattered against the marble floor. The hall was packed. 200 guests. Long tables on both sides. Banners of the Vance pack on one wall, banners of the Brand pack on the other. At the far end, an altar. At the altar, a priest in white. At the priest's side, Cassia Brand in a gold dress. At Cassia's side, Damon Vance in the green and silver of his father's house. Damon saw Leora first. His face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, anger, and then, as his eyes lifted to the man behind her, fear. Cassia saw Theron and went completely still. Brides do not usually understand pack politics. Cassia understood it. She had been raised on it. She saw the Leakin King in the doorway of her wedding hall, and she felt her family's land slip out from under her feet in a single heartbeat. Theron did not speak yet. He let the silence work. Leora walked first. Theron walked 1 step behind her. That was the choice they had made. This was her hall. He was the weight at her back. She walked up the center aisle of the great hall. Every wolf in every seat turned to watch. Her steps were even. Her hands were loose at her sides. She did not look at any of them. She looked at Damon. She stopped 6 paces from the altar. "You invited me," she said. Her voice carried. "I came." Damon tried to speak. He tried to find the smirk he had been practicing for months. It would not come. The Leakin King was standing behind her, and the smirk would not come. "Who is this?" Damon said finally. Theron stepped forward then. He stopped at Leora's shoulder. He looked at Damon for a long moment. "You sent her an invitation," he said. "I am her answer." A murmur ran through the hall. Half the guests had figured it out. The other half were still catching up. Cash's father, the Brand Alpha, stood from the head table. "What is the meaning of this?" he said. "What is this man doing in my daughter's wedding hall?" Theron turned to him. "Sit down, Brand." He did not. He took a step forward. He was a large man. He had been an alpha for 20 years. He was not used to being told to sit. Theron looked at him. Just looked. The Brand Alpha sat down. Then Theron turned back to Damon. 3 nights ago, 3 men with Vance pack blades entered my citadel. They attempted to kill my mate. The word landed in the hall like a stone in a still lake. Mate. 200 guests stopped breathing at the same time. Theron reached into the inside pocket of his black coat. He took out a small leather pouch. He appended it on the floor at Damon's feet. 3 wolf head tokens rolled out. Pack tokens. Vance pack. "Your seal is on the order," Theron said. "We took it from a messenger this morning. We have the names of every wolf who took payment from the Brand Alpha to be a part of this. They are sitting in their own homes right now. They are surrounded by my riders. They will live or die based on what is said in this hall in the next 5 minutes." The Brand Alpha had gone the color of old paper. He looked at Damon. Damon would not look back. "This is a lie," Damon said. His voice cracked on the word. "This is a lie. She has poisoned you against me." "No," Theron said. "She has not said a word against you." He looked down at Leora. "Tell him." Leora did not turn to face Damon. She kept her eyes on Kasha for one more breath. Then she turned to him. "I do not want your land," she said. "I do not want your pack. I do not want your name. I never wanted any of it. You thought leaving me was the end of my story, Damon. You did not even know it was the first page." The hall did not breathe. Damon broke. It was a small breaking, very fast. He moved. He reached under the altar where he had hidden a blade for the moment things went wrong. He came at Leora with it. He came at her face. Theron caught his wrist before the blade was halfway through its arc. Damon was a strong man. He had been raised to fight. He had killed in pack disputes. He had broken jaws and snapped ribs. He could not move his wrist. He could not move anything. Theron looked at him. He did not raise his voice. He never had to. "You rejected her in front of 200 wolves," he said. "You tried to kill her in front of 200 more. You came at her with steel inside her own answer." He turned Damon's wrist. The blade fell. Damon's knees buckled. Theron held him up by the wrist alone. "By the law of my citadel," Theron said, "you are stripped of pack. By the law of council, you are stripped of name. By the law of my hand, you are alive only because she has not asked otherwise." He looked at Leora. "Has she asked otherwise?" Leora looked at Damon for a long moment. The man she had loved. The man who had marked her. The man who had thrown her into the snow. "No," she said. Theron released the wrist. Damon collapsed. Theron turned to the Brand Alpha. "You will return to your lands. You will deliver to me, by the next full moon, the river port at the eastern bend, as payment for the use of your hall in this attempt. If you do not, I will come for it myself." The Brand Alpha nodded. He could not speak. "You will release your daughter from this betrothal," Theron said. "She has done nothing wrong. She will not be punished for the choices of her father and the man she was promised to. She is free to leave." Kasha, standing at the altar in her gold dress, began to cry. They were not the tears of grief. Theron took Leora's hand. They turned, together, and they walked back down the center aisle of the great hall, and not a single wolf in any seat met their eyes as they passed. Behind them, on the marble floor, the red wine had not yet been cleaned up. They did not stay for the rest of it. The Leakin riders moved through the Vance Hall after Leora and Theron had gone. They took the 6 paid wolves into custody. They escorted the Brand Alpha back to his carriage. They escorted Kasha, in her gold dress, to the home of her mother's family in the next valley, which had not been part of the betrothal arrangement and which would take her in. They left Damon on the floor of his own wedding hall, alive, stripped of pack, with nothing left to him but the name he had been told he could no longer use. By sunrise, the old Vance Alpha had been informed. He was a sick man. The shock did not kill him, but it took something out of him that did not come back. He named his second son Heir before noon. The second son was a quiet man. He had always been kind to Leora. He sent a messenger to the Black Citadel within the week, asking for nothing, asking only to be heard. Theron heard him. The Vance pack continued, under a different hand. That was the end of Damon's bloodline as a power in the northern reaches. The Brand pack delivered the river port at the eastern bend on the next full moon, as promised. They lost a third of their lands in that one transfer. They never recovered the standing they had spent 4 generations building. The Brand Alpha lived another 6 years and died quietly in a small house at the edge of his old territory. His daughter, Kasha, married a tradesman 2 years after the wedding that did not happen. She was, by all accounts, happier than she would have been. The 6 paid wolves were brought before Theron's court. He gave them a choice: service to the Citadel for 10 years or the long road. 4 of them chose service. 2 of them chose the road. Of those 2, 1 came back 5 years later and asked for service after all. He was given it. That is what happened to the others. Now I will tell you what happened to Leora. For 3 months after the wedding, she did not speak much. The Citadel is a quiet place by nature, and she fit into its quiet. She walked the corridors. She read in the library. She sat with the healer who had cleaned her wound and learned the names of the herbs in the garden. Theron did not push her. He had never pushed her. That was the thing about Theron. He understood that some wounds heal at the speed they choose to heal at, and a king who tries to hurry them only makes them worse. In the 4th month, she went to him in his study one evening. She sat in the chair across from him. He set down his papers. "I want to do something," she said. "Tell me." She told him. She had been thinking about it for weeks. There were other women like her in the packs of the northern reaches. Mates who had been rejected. Mates who had been thrown out. Mates who had walked into forests with leather pouches of travel coin and nowhere to go. Some of them died. Some of them survived. None of them had a place to go to. She wanted to build that place. A house at the foot of the Citadel. A walled garden. A forge because she had been raised in a forge and she knew the rhythm of the work. A school because rejected mates often had children with them, and children needed a place to learn. A council of women who had walked the same road. A bell at the gate. Anyone who rang the bell would be let in. No questions. No tests. The doors would not close. Theron listened. He listened all the way through. He did not interrupt once. When she was done, he said, "What do you need from me?" "The land," she said, "and your name on the deed, so that no pack can ever come and take it back." "Done," he said. "And the rest?" "The rest I will do." He almost smiled again. He was getting better at it. "I knew you would," he said. The house was finished in 18 months. They called it the Iron Garden, after her grandfather's pendant, which she hung over the door on the day it opened. 46 women walked through that door in the first year. 68 in the second. By the 5th year, the Iron Garden had taken in over 400 rejected mates from packs across the northern reaches. And the practice of formal rejection in the open circle began, slowly, to fall out of fashion. Alphas did not want to be the ones whose names appeared on the rolls of the Iron Garden. The Iron Garden became a kind of judgment that no court could deliver. Leora and Theron had no children. The Leakin bloodline ended with him. He had told her, the night before they marked each other, that it would. She had told him she did not care. She still did not. The 2 of them were enough. Sometimes, in the evenings, Leora would walk through the great hall of the Black Citadel and stop in the middle of the floor. The marble there caught the candlelight in a way that reminded her, every time, of red wine on a polished floor. She would stand in that light for a moment. She would think about the woman who had walked into the Vance Hall in a red dress, and the woman she had become afterwards. And then she would walk on,